Hello YouTube kayak fishing friends. It is a beautiful spring day here in central Texas, and that of course means it's about a few degrees hotter than the surface of the sun. So I'm going to use this day to make a few improvements, or at least one major improvement for my kayak fishing experience out here. What we have is this right here, which is the Perception kayaks, the Pescador Pro 120. It's a super popular kayak. Great deal on them. You get a lot of value for the money, and they fish really well, but there are a few shortcomings. One of those main shortcomings on it is the rod holders. They are absolutely a joke. The ones that come in there look like this. Okay, and they're molded in, and they are absolutely useless. They don't fit the rods. The rod just slaps around, it's not deep enough. You can see that doesn't work. It's absolutely useless. Why they did it, I don't know. In fact, they even are trying to sell a little insert that's extra money to make them useful. So anyway, they're a joke, and they're just there. So you have a couple of options for rod holders on there. You can use those things and have your rods bouncing around, making noise, and not being secure whatsoever, which is not really a good idea. Or you can do like I did here, which is install a regular rod holder like you would normally see on any number of kayaks. They are useful. They'll hold your rod really well. They're great for a lot of things. I installed 2 of them on this, as you can see. And for things like river trips and stuff, that's fine. River trips, I tend to use a few less rods. So if I bring 3 rods, then great on it. But when I'm out on a lake or on a pond fishing, I tend to use more rods. I usually carry 5 rods. And so in doing so, obviously having these 2 rod holders is not enough, and I'm sure not going to use these useless things. Okay, which leaves us with another option. Option number 2, shoving all your rods in the front of the kayak. Yeah, really a terrible option. Even worse than using these things. So yeah, you're not going to do that. The normal option you'd use is the kayak fishing crate. These are great for a lot of things. You can put on rod holders on them. You can carry all of your tackle. Pretty useful. The one problem I have with these, when I'm reaching around from the back of my seat, a lot of times they'll get a little tangled up. I'll come up and I'll hit the other one, or this one will get caught in a lure or whatever. They did just a little bit close. And the other thing is, when you're messing with trying to get your stuff out, you can hit these, they can be turned. So they're a good solution, but they're not perfect. What my plan is I am going to actually make use of these formerly useless little molded in rod holders. And I am going to make a rod holder that holds 4 rods back here and stays out of the way of the crate. So basically I could use it for extra rods, or if I wanted to, I could use that as the only 4, but I'd have easy access to all my stuff back here and not have to worry about anything getting caught up and all that stuff. So here is the basic plan for what the rod holder is going to look like. It's going to have 2 posts that go right into those useless holes, and then it's going to curve out, and one rod will go in here, one rod will go in here on it, and should work really well. And it leaves this center section easily accessible, so I can reach back and grab whatever I need from the tackle box. And if you're not carrying 4 rods, the other thing that's great for is you can put a net in one of them, or you can do a number of things. There are absolutely cheaper ways to do this. It is not the least expensive way. But to me, getting out and being on the water, I want everything to go as smoothly as possible, as easily as possible, and basically I want to maximize my fun on the water. It just means I can get more fish catching in and less frustrations. And let's face it, frustrations, that's what we're trying to get away from on the water. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little kind of list of things that you need to do this project. I'm going to do that down there in the description. If you like this sort of project, definitely click the subscribe button, click the like button, and hopefully I can keep them coming to you. And I've got other plans for not only the Perception kayak, but for my Diablo here, and who knows, maybe even for the little Vibe over there. Anyway, the pieces that you see down here, I'll have those all listed out. And you'll also need some of the PVC cement. I will probably go out and get some KRYLON Fusion and spray paint it black so it matches the kayak a little better. And then you just need something to cut it with. Okay, and always want to have your safety glasses on. So I'm going to get started. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to cut some pieces to fit in those holes here. That means I need to measure those holes, measure how deep they are, and I want to cut something that is going to stick up the length of it. Now, there are a couple pieces you see here which are a little end cap and then a coupler sleeve. And the reason I use those is because that even with this 1 1/4 inch PVC that I have, these holes, they're so big that this still has some play in it. And that's what we're trying to get away from. So having the little coupler sleeve and the cap on the end should tighten things up a little bit. And then when I strap it in at the end, it should be nice and solid. Okay, so I'm going to measure the depth of that hole. If I can find, there it is. Woohoo! I'm going to measure the depth of this hole and see how tall I want my risers to be. I'm going to want them to be a little bit above level, maybe to right about here. I don't want them to be too high, but I also don't want them to be like laying right down on the deck, I don't think. Just kind of up a little bit so that when the rod goes through the holder, it doesn't get the bottoms of the rods wet. And they're also easy to grab when I'm sitting. I don't have to reach way down or way up. So I'm gonna measure that and I'll be back. So basically that hole is 5 inches or so deep. So I'm gonna have part of it taken up by these right here. And then it's also gonna wanna stick up from the top, about 3 inches or so, I think will be fine. So I need to make up 8 inches of height or so to the bottom of the rod holder. So I'm going to cut those pieces. There's going to be one small piece that goes between these two and a small piece that goes between this one and the first T bracket. So I'll cut those and I'll be right back. Remember, wherever I put them, you definitely want to use your safety goggles. Always be safe. Okay, so what I did was I cut 2 5-inch sections and 2 4-inch sections. And what I did is I put a 4-inch section right here between the coupler and the cap. And I put the 5-inch section right here by the T. And what that does is it gives us just a little bit of rise, kind of to just below the halfway point of the seat. Now when these get pressed together and glued, it'll compress even a little more, so it's going to be just slightly lower than this. But that'll make it really easy to get everything kind of situated. The next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to measure. You can see this is a lot more secure by having those caps and the couplers in here. Anyway, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to measure the distance between right about here and right about here. And then I'm going to cut a piece of PVC to go between those two items, or those two couplers. And that's going to kind of solidify this whole section here. So I will do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I cut myself a piece. I determined that 8.5 inches was gonna be kind of a good spanner, because these insert into here. That you have to remember, you need to cut them a little bit longer because they go inside there. So what it's going to look like, I'm trying to hold the camera while doing this, it's gonna look like that right there, and it's gonna be nice and solid and kind of keep everything in place. Plus I can take and put a strap right along from here on this screw eye to this little eye, kind of put a bungee around there, and that's going to keep everything from sliding out, so that'll be good. The next thing I'm going to do, I need to cut a bunch of little short pieces, nothing long, just really only about 1.5 inches long, maybe 2 inches. I'll check the measurements, but I think it's going to be about 1.5 inches long, and they're just going to go between these and each of the other fittings. Should be plenty of space, and probably only stick out about this far when it's all done. So it'll be really, really easy to access everything, and it's going to come sweeping back towards us. So instead of being straight on like this, it's going to go backward. So it'll be a whole lot easier to deal with. And as you can see, I'll be able to reach back here and have great access to my tackle, which should be back here. Okay, so I'm going to cut some little pieces to go between each fitting, and I'm going to put the fitting together, and then when I come back, you'll kind of see what it's going to look like. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so what I did was I cut a bunch of little 2-inch sections on there to go between each piece, and what it kind of looks like, you can see it flares back and has room for the 4 rods. Now, when I put the rods in, I noticed that maybe I'm a little low on there, because like this doesn't sit quite as much as I'd like to. So I think what I'm going to do, since I haven't glued anything together and I'm still doing the design, I'm going to cut a couple of pieces for right here that are a bit longer. These were 5-inch sections. I think I'm going to go to 8 inches or so. That'll raise it up here. It'll still be out of the way of the chair, but these should sit a lot better and not be resting on here. So I'm going to cut a couple of 8-inch sections for this, and then we'll take a look and see how it goes. All right? Okay, I cut a couple of 8-inch sections. As you can see, kind of keeps these off of here, gives us a little space. And because what's going to happen is, even though this is below the seat here, when all this gets glued up, it's all going to get hammered together. So we're going to lose 1 inch or so of height here, which is just going to be about perfect. It'll keep these rods off of the deck and also make them clear though. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start the gluing process, getting these guys glued together. You know, first I might do one other thing here, and hopefully you'll see what that is. I got a couple ideas. I was thinking that maybe I should put some screw eyes or some pad eyes, like these pad eyes right here, you can see, onto some of the parts here, so I can have rod leashes for this. So I think I may do that. I'm gonna have to take a second to figure out exactly how I want to do that, but I got a couple ideas. I will be right back. Okay, the first thing I did was I drilled this tiny pilot hole right here, you can see. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that as a guide, and I'm going to go ahead and use a Forstner bit to kind of put a little U shape right there. And what that's gonna do is the trigger from the handles on the rods will fit right into there, and it's going to kind of keep them from shifting around or turning or twisting. It should help keep them in place a little better. So I'm going to be right back, and I'll do that and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, So as you can see, I kind of notched them out. I drilled that little pilot hole first and then used a 3/4 inch Forstner bit using the little pilot hole to guide it, and it notched it out. And then I just used my little spindle sander to kind of clean it up a little bit and use a knife. And I'll probably sand it a little more before I paint it. But you can see it's not perfect, but it does kind of grab the little things and kind of keeps everything kind of in place a little bit. So you see this one's, it'll lock right into that place there. So, you know, does what it's supposed to do. Ain't perfect, but not bad. I got another idea that I'm thinking about that maybe we'll see in just a second with it. Maybe I'll just discard that idea. I don't know yet, but I'll let you know. Okay, what I decided to do is those little 4-inch sections, I'm going to use those as a bottom to it. It'll kind of hold them in place a little better, make it a little more stable. They can move a little bit less side to side than they can here. So I'm going to cut 2 more of those 4-inch sections, and I think it's just going to help a little bit better. And what I'll do is I'll sand these bottom edges just to kind of keep them from tearing things up. So, okay, so this is basically what it's going to look like. You can see it back there. Basically, you can see that it's going to hold the 4 rods in place. I may or may not use leash holders to it. If I do that, I'll do a separate little video on it. And but I think it's going to work really, really well. Once they strap this down, it'll be nice and secure. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use that PVC cement, and I'm going to lock all this in place. Basically what you're doing is you're running PVC cement around just the edges that are going to be together, and then you use like a rubber mallet, or I mean you can use a regular hammer, but a rubber mallet, something like that, to just pound them together so they're nice and tight, and then you just let it dry. And so it'll be slightly more compact than this, but should be nice. You can see it barely sticks out at all off of there, but it's enough to make them easily accessible, not be in the way of casting, not be in the way of any paddling, and also allows easy access behind the chair for any of the stuff you're tackling, all that back here. So, and that's the whole goal, really. Okay, so I'm gonna get this all kind of put together. I'll see you in a few. The other thing I might do is I think I'll probably run up and see if they have any of the black KRYLON Fusion paint. The Fusion is actually good because it bonds to plastic, so it'll last a lot longer, won't flake off nearly as much. And I think that the black would look proper and look a lot better with this Perception kayak. White would be fine, but you know, black will be better. And I think that, like, if you wanted to keep it white, I think you can get all of this, you can see the lettering, I'm not sure, hopefully you can see all the lettering or the little marks here. I think all of those will come off if you rub them down with acetone. Not 100% sure on that, but I think that's what will take them off. Just rub it down and those should come off. So anyway, hopefully the next time I pop on here, you will see this with all put together and with the black paint on it, and be ready to go. Okay, thanks. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I got everything painted and all done up, and here's what the final product looks like. You can kind of see that I put some pad eyes on it so I can attach rod leashes, and it just basically makes for a very, very nice nice clean look. Holds those 4 rods out of the way and makes it nice and solid. They've got the little notches here to help keep everything in place from the front. You can see it doesn't stick out really far, but it gives me plenty of room to get to those rods, and basically I think it's going to work out really, really well. If you like this video and you want more like it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'm going to keep some different kayak things coming at you. Like I say, I've got other kayaks to work on. I'm going to do some work on that Diablo right back there. I think I'm going to put on some dry hatches to that, and going to do some more things to this Perception. So keep on with it, and you have a good one.